everybody, Backyard Bullion here. Now, securing and storing your bullion at home is probably one of the most commonly asked topics that I get asked to talk about here on YouTube, and I've been putting it off for far too long. So finally we have here today a collection of thoughts, opinions, things to think about and ideas for those who are buying silver and gold, storing it at home and want to keep it secure, because ultimately the last thing that anybody wants is for the lovely wealth that you've put your hard-earned cash into and storing at home to be lost, damaged, stolen, burnt away in a fire, and it's irrevocably gone. So lots of things to talk about here today. I want to make it abundantly clear though that this is not a security advice video, it's not a financial advice video, it's just a collection of things that I thought about when thinking about storing bullion at home and the steps that you might want to think about if you are going to store bullion at home around security. There are going to be lots of varying different opinions. This video is primarily based against or recommended for kind of new stackers, people who are new to collecting bullion and keeping it at home. But at the same time, if there are any seasoned stackers out there with, you know, home security systems, alarm systems, safes and armories, or whatever you may have, let us know your thoughts down in the comment section, because I know a lot of the new stackers get a lot of really insightful things out of those kind of comments. So I'll see you down there for a healthy, fun debate around this topic. Now, where to start? It can be quite daunting actually to think about home security and sort of storing your wealth and storing your bullion at home. It was pretty overwhelming for me when I got started, and I remember the first couple of tubes of coins that I bought, I ended up basically just storing them on my desk because I quite enjoyed having them out there so that I could see them, play with them, you know, just have that wealth there. But of course that's out in open view. It's not very good if you get somebody coming around to your house to do some work. It could be the plumber just swipes a tube of coins from your desk. It could be the cleaning lady. It could be anybody like that that just comes around and opportunistically takes those things. So having things in plain sight is, I guess, one of the things to talk about first of all. If you are collecting coins and you've got a nice coin collection like this and you've got this out on your mantelpiece, lots of lovely gold shiny coins, that's just an invitation, that's an advertisement that you've got something precious there for people to steal. Now, of course, that's quite a pessimistic way of looking at things, because ultimately in any home, whether it be precious metal or not, there are lots of valuable things on show. TVs, computers, laptops, electronics, phones, the list is endless. And in fact, you know, home insurance is always there to cover those kind of things. We will talk a little bit about insurance with regards to precious metals as we go throughout the video. But the point is that even if you've got some coins, if it's just a small modest collection, having it on show is not the end of the world. But at the same time, it is an advertisement, it makes it obvious. And the majority of kind of home invasion thefts are opportunistic. You know, you've left the back door open or you've left the front door unlocked and you've gone out for a walk with the dog. Somebody comes around, just walks in 5 minutes or even less and swipes a few things that are on show. And that's one of the things to definitely think about. Home security in that sense starts with you. You can have the most secure home in the world, but if you leave a door unlocked or a window unlocked, it suddenly becomes the most easy place to break into. So there's definitely things to think about in that sense. Now, in terms of storing your bullion at home, so let's just quickly wrap up this topic. So a lot of people will think that the clearest and easiest thing to do is to have a lockbox or a safe or something like that. And yes, you can do, and that will definitely protect you against those opportunistic thieves or burglars that might just come around and test your front door. If it's unlocked, they'll come in and have a quick nosy around if you're not in. They're not going to have the equipment to break into a safe. If it's a lockbox that's not secured to a wall or a floor or wherever, that's something that's still at risk, you know, if it's easily liftable. And remember, people can lift a fair old amount of weight, even if it weighs 30, 40 kilos as a lockbox. If it's pick-upable, people might well just walk off with it and try and deal with it later. So if you are going to have a home security safe, then make sure that it's heavy enough or at least bolted down to a floor and you know, not easily able to be walked off with. So that'll sort of help with those opportunistic ones. Now, on the topic of safes, safes are a really interesting one because a safe would seem like a really safe thing to have, you know, the clue's in the name there. But, and I have talked about this before, it was a while ago though, a safe is only as good as you, because if you're in and somebody breaks into your home and they've got a knife or a gun or they've, you know, threatened you, and they find your safe and say, if you don't open this safe, we're going to kill you, beat you up, or whatever it might be, you're probably going to open that safe. So it's a completely useless piece of equipment, and all of your precious metals, all of your wealth is in one place. So once you have opened that safe, your last air of defense is gone and everything has then been taken. So that's definitely something to think about. A safe is very good for protecting those against those opportunistic moments, but it's not so good if you're in the house. Also, if you are not in the house and somebody comes who's prepared for a safe, or who knows perhaps that you have a safe, perhaps the safe supplier that you bought from, a disgruntled employee has, looked up the records of who's bought certain safes with different precious metals or cash equivalent insurance values, and then they've planned and they've come round and they've got their, angle grinders or whatever it might be to get into your safe. That's definitely something to factor in as well. So a safe is really only as safe as you make it to be, and personally I am of the opinion that a safe can be a little bit of a liability if you're in the house. And that's not to say that I don't think a safe is a good idea. There's definitely arguments to be said that a safe is a good thing, but ultimately there's things to think about there for that. There's ways around that kind of sort of thinking as well, in terms of if you are going to buy a safe, perhaps have it delivered to somewhere that's not your own home address where that safe is finally going to reside. I suppose it depends on what kind of safe it is, how big it is. Or maybe buy a safe which is not necessarily kind of, if you're in America, you can buy specifically a gun safe. A gun safe is going to be just as good as a regular kind of safe, basically, for what you want it to do. So a gun safe would perhaps be a little bit less likely of a target for people to look up, whereas a kind of a company that specifically designs and builds safes for precious metals, that might be a bit of a target for somebody to hack the data, find out who's bought these safes and then go in from there. So that's definitely something to think about. Now, in terms of storage within those safes, I've seen a lot of people talk about having dummy safes and using dummy safes as that kind of, if somebody breaks in, you've got a safe which is in a fairly obvious place perhaps, you open it, you give them off a small amount of decoy coins, or even you have a stash of fake silver coins or fake gold coins in there, and then they're in a hurry to go because they don't want the police to come and find them, and they go and they've walked off with some very, very useless tat, whereas all of your high value stuff is safely secured somewhere else. And that brings me on to the question of gold versus silver in terms of storing your precious metals at home. Now, silver is, as I've said in many different videos, its value to weight ratio is very, very low or high, which is the one. So basically the value to the weight is, a lot lower than gold. Obviously the gold-silver ratio, the value of gold relative to silver is vastly different. So you can have, a big old chunky bar of silver like this, which is, it's not that big. You can probably fit this in, in a nook or a cranny in the house. But let's be honest, this whole thing here versus this thing here, this is worth equivalent of 85, 86 ounces of silver. So you're looking at this one coin being worth more than this. Add another kind of, nearly half of this bar, over half of this extra, and you've then got the same amount of value. This can be stored anywhere. You could put this down a loose floorboard. You could store this behind, behind a picture or anywhere in the house that's just not easily thinkable for a thief to get access to, whereas a big chunky bar of silver, or even worse, a tube of coins. A tube of coins is, it's very bulky. The plastic takes up a lot of space, and here we've got, I think there's like 24 of these Krugerrands here on the table, and please guys, don't worry about the condition of these Krugerrands that I'm popping back into the tube here. They're just bullion coins in my mind, so I really don't mind about the quality. But the point is that a tube like this takes up actually a fair amount of volume, and there's only 24, I think. Ignore what I've written on the top there. And you look at that, the volume is different, and if you have a whole bunch of tubes, it's going to take up a lot of space. And the equivalent value of this, for an equivalent of like one and a bit of these, you'd need 4 tubes of this. The space side of things really does take a lot out. And the same can be said for proof coins actually as well. If you have a whole bunch of these Queen's Beast proofs in these lovely display boxes with these cardboard boxes here, this is probably an equivalent value, roughly. No, probably this is a little bit more, but equivalent value, and it takes up an awful lot of space. So that's definitely something to think about. Now, the last bit of this video that I want to talk about is insurance and whether or not you should insure your precious metals. Now, nobody really should tell you what is right for you, and it's of course going to come down to everybody's own personal circumstances. I do hate these tubes sometimes. It's very difficult to get the coins out. There we go, all but one. Now, insurance is an interesting question. Do you insure your precious metals? There are arguments out there, there's a lot of arguments out there that I've seen on forums, online and everywhere, that if you insure your precious metals, you're basically telling people that you've got them. And you know, there's all of those insurance records, the insurance company will have it, and this is by no means any disrespect to any insurance company workers, but the snotty-nosed teenager who's got his first job in an insurance call centre, you're telling you know, you've got £50,000 worth of gold in your house. What's to say he doesn't tell his mate down the pub that you know, Joe Bloggs and, you know, 17 The Street has got that much gold, and they put a plan together and they go and rob that house? You just never know. And whilst you'd like to think that these companies have you know, vetting procedures for these things, it's very, very easy for somebody who's not been in trouble with the law before to get in, to find this information out and then go from there. Or even, you know, hacking and electronic breaches of data. You know, there's all of these types of things to think about. But at the same time, insuring your stack is an important part of the process. And whilst insurance is an issue for some people, and people will definitely want to have it, others might not want to have it. Now, in terms of like the insurance side of things, it's not just insuring against theft, it's also insuring against you know, loss and damage. So if, for example, there was a situation where your house burnt down, or something like that, you know, something horrible that you didn't think about, your house collapsed in an earthquake or something, if you have your bullion insured, at least then there's the potential to get it recovered. And I do remember back in 2016, I think, when I got started watching all these brilliant videos on YouTube, there was a chap in Canada whose house had burnt down, completely burnt to the ground, absolutely everything incinerated. And he had in his home a fireproof safe, which is definitely something to think about, but those safes are only fireproof for a certain amount of time. That completely collapsed, melted, and his entire silver and gold stack was completely melted and gone. He managed to get an insurance claim, he managed to be able to prove what he had, but that was very difficult. I remember him talking about it. He had to have proof of what he purchased, proof that it was actually in the house, in the safe, and at that time, and there's all of these like questions that you could have thrown back, and ultimately insurance companies are there not to pay out. They don't like to pay out. That's where they make their money when they don't. So, you know, it's an interesting kind of topic to think about. Eventually he did get a payout, and then what he did was he went to his home and he basically started gold and silver panning and mining his own home, and he did recover a fair amount of gold and silver, I seem to remember from those videos. Can't remember what channel it was, but it was hilariously funny in its own right. Horrible situation, but really funny that he managed to get a big insurance payout, and then he went and recovered all of this scrap melted gold and silver ingots, which of course you can then recover the value from. So it's a really interesting topic to think about, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface on this. Of course, there's going to be loads of different other tips, hints, things that you can do in terms of home security. We haven't even talked about personal private security when, you know, sort of buying things online, if you're going to be buying silver coins or gold coins, and for example you want to store them in nice capsules. If you're going to go and buy a bunch of nice capsules from eBay or something, perhaps don't buy a bunch of 1 ounce gold Queen's Beast capsules using your home address. It's a bit of an advert that you've got those coins. So there's loads of different things like that to think about. And I feel like I have only scratched the surface here. So if you guys have got some follow-up questions, comments, things that you want to know about, or things that I haven't talked about in this video, then feel free to let me know down in the comment section, and perhaps we'll do a follow-up video in due course. If you are a seasoned stacker and security expert and you want to comment on this, please feel free to do so. That's one of the reasons why I make these videos. I learn from them, I learn from the comments, I learn from your opinions and experiences, and I know a lot of the new people out there will too. Otherwise, if you enjoyed today's video, if you enjoyed the presentation of it, please do take a moment to hit the thumbs up button. It really does help everything that we do here on the channel. If you want to see videos from us in the future, hit that subscribe button. And if you are subscribed and want to get notifications when we upload videos, hit that alarm bell. Otherwise, that's it for today. Thank you one and all for watching. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. And as always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.